Welcome to the Facetime with God podcast. I'm your host, Kay Farrar, and yes, you have tuned in to the right place because we're bringing Christ to the culture and the culture to Christ because the gospel's not for old times, it's for all times. So we've got relevant topics, real people, and we're starting right now. So welcome again, family, to FaceTime with God. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to flip the script. And so instead of me doing interviews, my good friend, Teresh Wilson, is going to be she's going to interview me today. So I get to get a little bit of a feeling for what it feels like to be peppered with all of these questions and whatever you want to say. So we're going to turn it around and flip the script, and we're giving it to you, Teresh.
Okay, thank you. So first, thank you so much, Kay Farrar, for this opportunity to be here while you tell your story. So first, we're going to start off with a game because I know that's how you like to do.
I love it.
But we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a rapid fire round, okay? So all you have to do is just answer the question as honest as possible with the shortest answer. So if it's a one word, that's perfect. Some things you might have to say a little bit more, but just keep it short, okay?
All right, and you know we got to get the puppy straight, you guys.
Yes.
So, all right. Ooh, puppy falling off the street. All right, puppy, you okay?
You gonna answer the questions? You gonna answer for mama? Okay.
Like she knows that this is your interview. She's like, yes. So, okay, first question. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
Animals. Of course.
Your favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
Miami.
Talking or texting?
Texting.
Heels or sneakers?
Sneakers.
Cash or online payments?
Online.
Group work or solo work?
Group work all day.
Success or happiness?
Happiness.
Joint or nuclear family?
Ooh, a who what now?
Nuclear, okay.
No, but joint, I'm trying to understand, what is a joint?
So like, there's already a family structure in place and then you join two together.
Okay, that would be joined. Okay, versus nuclear would be just a
like
normal.
Mother, father, and then you have your own children and bring them together.
Oh, normal family. Nuclear, I suppose.
Okay.
But I'll take joint. So, okay.
Be invisible or mind read?
Invisible or mind read? That's difficult. Oh, invisible? And I want y'all to see me, but I don't know. I need to know what's in your mind. So I don't want either one of those.
Okay.
I pass.
Okay. Online or offline shopping?
Online.
Okay. Last, dancing or singing?
I'm not good at either one, so I'll pass on both of those. Yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that.
That was cool.
Okay.
Great job. Thank you, Teresh.
Thank you. You're welcome. So, my first question, we're just going to kind of jump right in.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about why FaceTime with God. What is this movement that you are starting?
Wow.
And why now?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, so I'll start from the back and go up. You said, and why now? So I'll start with why now first. I think we're at a critical point in our culture, right? For me, and you know, whenever people are seeing this interview, I don't know what year it might be because these might be out here for a minute, but we're in 2024. So we're 4 years away from COVID, the beginning of COVID and all the turmoil and everything that happened. And we saw a lot of things during that time period. One of those things was Black Lives Matter, right? I mean, I go back and I remember how it all started, you know. with the kneeling, instead of standing, which is very bombastic in the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, and you're not gonna stand. And so, all of the turmoil and also, in Richmond, Virginia, we have what's known as Monument Avenue, which has been here, since post-Civil War. Monuments built to Confederate leaders. And in this city, they were desecrated, which is like the worst thing that you could do for historians, for those wealthy people that live on Monument Avenue. But the rage, and it's so interesting. I know I'm going deep on this answer.
No, good.
But it's so interesting because actually we're about to have a guest come in who owns a sneaker shop that was on, that would be considered West Broad, but downtown. That was raided. That was one of the stores that was looted.
Really?
He has a new one now, and he was with another owner.
Wow.
He'll tell everybody about it, but it was looted and just torn. And the man lost his business.
My gosh.
And many businesses. So it was all kinds of turmoil in our city and in many cities. Riots, and it's just burn, police, you see, it's so funny because we're just a few years out of it and people have completely forgotten. People were going up, police officers were killed when they were sitting in their squad cars because the rage was against the police, because of police brutality. It was just a lot in this country, right? And as a result, we saw all of these things. Black Lives Matter was everywhere, the signs. In white stores, because what? They wanted people to know, hey, we're with you, don't loot my store.
Right.
All of the homes in the park, in the Central Park, in the Richmond area. I don't know if I used to go walking through there with my friends, right? They would have Black Lives Matter on their windows. And they're not that far from like Monument Avenue.
Right.
Why? Because I want my windows not to be broken.
Right.
I'm with you. We're with you.
Right.
You would see it in the end zones, and it was so funny. It went from, Black Lives Matter. It was in all the end zones, and it would be on the back of the football players' hats. Then it went from choose love.
Yep.
Then it went back to the team name on it. Like it just disappeared.
Yep.
And what I am seeing is that we have deeply seated issues in the Black community. And as a Christian, so this is the turmoil going on civilly in the community. But then as a Christian, right, our focus is reaching people for Christ, right? Spreading the gospel. And I noticed that I'm looking on TBN and I'm seeing everybody spreading the gospel and taking it to, like I was saying, Australia and the Aborigines and Botswana and, villages that have not been reached with the gospel. And I'm looking in the Bible where it says Jesus preached the gospel to the poor. So what that lets me know, part of what the gospel is a solution to is your circumstances. And then I look in our cities and I see kids who are raising themselves. I see graffiti. I see trash. I see drug addicts. I see as soon as you leave the nice neighborhood where I live, and you go about 10 minutes down the street, 2 streets over from my house. 10 minutes, what would that be? East, southeast maybe. Soon as you cross a particular street, you know what you start seeing? You start seeing people walking down the street looking like zombies. Seriously. And I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
You see people, you walk down the street, you stand at this stoplight and there's somebody swiping at the air, or somebody doing ballet. Out of their minds, right? People begging, homeless people everywhere, kids, like we said, raising themselves. We see turmoil in our cities, and I'm like, you guys, we're missing. We're leaving here and going all the way overseas to help people, and we've got issues, deep issues in our inner city. And to me, the gospel is the solution to that. Why? Because it's inside out. And the gospel fixes your inside so that you can deal with life, so that you can navigate, so that you can become all of who God created you to become. And who is filling that void? Who is doing? And this is the thing. I also see people trying to move away. Just like, I live in the area where I live because my mother, a school teacher, decided she wanted her kids to go to better schools. So she moved us out of the inner city so we could get a better education, right? So, we see people moving away from problems, but the problems, they're not going anywhere.
Nope.
And so either we figure out how to do something about it, because, people are good at, okay, I see, I feel so bad. Somebody need to help those children. All right, y'all, well, this is what we're going to do next weekend. Yeah, we know. We're going to get your school closed about. And you're dealing with your situation, but we never deal with these other issues because we feel like, okay, well, I'll send y'all a few dollars or whatever, and I can get away from it, and me and my family, we're going to be okay.
Right.
But that's not the case. Not too long ago, they mentioned that the congressmen were having to be picked up and bussed into the state capitol because they couldn't drive and park and just go in like they normally were because they were being hijacked at gunpoint. I know in Baltimore, my aunt was my cousin was getting on me about, girl, don't be going out grocery shopping at night in the dark. They're hijacking people for their groceries now. And so what I'm saying is, I know this is a real long answer. I'm gonna give it back to you after this. No, you're good.
Take it.
I'm gonna give it back to you after this. But one of the things that I said, and the reason why now I wanted to start this is, what we don't need as a society, right, is a growing group of people who are so disenfranchised from society. That they begin to feel that there's no hope, and they really don't care anymore whether they live or die. It's like, whatever. Because I tried and I can't do this. I don't have this, so I can't get that. I don't have enough education, so I can't, I can get a job at McDonald's, but what is that going to do for me? By the time they take taxes out, I can't eat, I can't pay any rent. I can't cope. I have these kids, I can't provide for them. I don't know where the daddy is, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did. And what do I do? And I'm at a point now where I don't care anymore. You do whatever. Just do whatever. I don't care. I'm going to take my drugs, whatever. Y'all take these kids. I can't cope. What we don't want is a growing group of people who are so disenfranchised from society they no longer care whether they even live or die. Right? Because what that means is that they also no longer care whether you live or die.
That's right.
They have no regard for life. And so people who have no regard for life, you tick them off, they can go to the subway and stab everybody. Stab everybody on their subway car. They pull out, they go in the office and just shoot it up. If they see you with some groceries, they don't have any, they'll pull out the knife, stab you, and take your groceries. It's like, we don't need that. So there are people in society who care. There are for others without regard for whether or not it impacts them. Unfortunately, not everybody's that way. So what I'm saying, a wake-up call to those who care somewhere in the back of their mind because they feel it has no impact on them. Hello, wake up. Because you're gonna one day walk out of your door and you're gonna be surrounded by these others because it's a growing number of people. Right? The haves and the have-nots. The have-nots are all you got to do is driving through your city, where places where you never saw people on every corner asking for food. You see it more and more and more and more. This is a problem. And you're going to be surrounded by it. So those of you who know better, now's the time to let's put our heads together. It's not an easy fix. So what FaceTime with God is all about is being relevant, being real, but bridging that gap between the current culture and Christ so that we can level things up, you know, so that we can, you know, put some strategies, put some plans in place, not just we're going to fill up some bags and we're going to pass out toothbrushes and soap to the homeless. We do need to do that. We do, because they need it, right? But what we have to figure out is, how can we stop this pipeline to homelessness? And that takes strategy, it takes planning, it takes lots of money. And so this podcast is a way to give voice to certain issues. It is a way to wake up and connect with people like yourself, to be a part of our team, right? To get engaged, to know what we're doing. You have other things that you're doing, but at least we know what they're doing, and hey, we can be supportive. And if we need people to give voice to something, to sign on to something, to stand up and say, yes, we support this, you know, so we're growing our network so that we have a team that when we say, you know, Senator Warner, we have a proposal and we want to present this curriculum to be available, to be adopted throughout the school system, to help certify parents in particular issues. And we want funding for every parent that goes through this program, that when they finish and they pass, they will be considered a certified parent, and they will get a $1,000 grant, because we know these grandparents are taking care of kids. And so, Senator Warner, we would like to present you our proposal, and here's our team, here's what we believe, here's what we want to do, these are the results that we expect. And, you know, we get people to sign on. And so then we have something that can be a part of a solution. So we're starting with a voice, but we do have programs that we're going to be rolling out to be part of the solution. So that is why now, and that is what I hope to accomplish with this new ministry that we started.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry, I went so loud.
No, ma'am. I'm like...
But it's in my bones. You know, this is not something that's coming... And even with what I promise you, this is coming out of my bones.
Yeah.
This is coming out of my spleen, right?
Yeah.
This is everything that's in me. I mean this. I mean this. Like, no. I'm not going to live my life in my nice wherever.
Yeah.
Okay? And not care about these kids in the inner city. Because they're crying out for help and don't even know it. And we as a community have to figure out, not surface level, not that it looks so pretty, we have put a nice little proposal together, you know, because you've worked in the inner city. Yeah. You have put your life on the line. You have stood in between maybe gang fights and said, no, this is not going to happen. And it stopped, right? Yeah. We can do this. But it does not need to be a one-off situation. We need a program that works. And we need people to work the program. And so that's what we're doing.
Wow. So when I say wow, I'm like, you know, you can never judge a book by its cover. And when I'm listening to you, I believe every word that you're saying. And I'm just, there's so much more to who you are in the package of what I see than what meets the eye. And it's just amazing. And I'm so thankful that God is doing this through you right now. Because so leading into my next question, I'm glad it is my next question, because I feel like it's very easy to see a woman like yourself, very accomplished in your career and in ministry, and just the impact that you've had on people in those places, and think, oh, you know, she's up here, but you didn't start there. And so I want to know, who was young Kim? Where did you start? What did life look like for you at that time?
Cool. Yeah, so I grew up in the inner city. I say 2 blocks over from the hood.
Yes.
So I grew up on Northumberland Avenue, which is pretty much 2 blocks over from Chamberlain Avenue, where all the, everything is in the mix. Yeah. Probably maybe 4 blocks from my house, it would have been where, you got the area where all the prostitutes were and everything, and it's still there. So, that's where I grew up. I went to Norrell Elementary. And which was very interesting. Norrell Elementary was an elementary school that they built pre-integration for Black kids to go to. And they built it on top of a trash heap.
Really?
So, and it was the time right before and then right when they were getting ready to start integration. But built on, and to me that was like society saying, oh, we'll build you a school, but this is what we think of you. And so I've seen a lot when my parents moved us out of the city to go to better schools. We moved into an all-white, predominantly area where they had lawn jockeys on pretty much every lawn around where we lived, and they were little, lawn jockeys of is a guy dressed in like a jockey outfit, the blousy pants, and the close shirt with the colors and the number, with blackface on. So it would be an all black face with big red lips and the white circles around their eyes.
What?
And it was just letting you know this, you're a servant, you're a slave. This is what we think of you. We are not pro who you are, and we got this out here to let you know this is what kind of house this is. They would, I was chased home once from school. They used to put firecrackers and things in our mailboxes, or they would, egg your house, or just different things, because they didn't want you here, in the neighborhood at that particular time. And so I saw all of that. But that's kind of where I came from, and that kind of plays into a lot of my feel for the neighborhood, because I grew up in the neighborhood. I had even back in that day. Hate to say when I was in elementary school, but it was right around the early, in the 70s, and we had kids bring weed to school. Back then.
They do today.
Back then, in first grade.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So this stuff is not new. I had girls that we used to, at the babysitters, and they would talk about what they did with their dad, sexually. And we didn't know all of what it was. You know what I'm saying? So, so things going on in the, yes.
Ooh.
These things they're deep rooted, and they've been going on for a long, long time. The thing is, they're escalating. It's growing, and I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people doing this.
Yeah.
I see a lot of it. I see a lot of people, doing this, patting them on the head, right? Meaning, we're gonna soothe you a little bit. Or I see a lot of people giving hugs. Okay, we love you, or which is good. But I don't see a lot of change.
Yeah.
And either we're intelligent, we're programmatic, we're strategic, we can plan, we can solve complex problems, or we can't. And I see us solving complex problems in business, in government. I see us solving complex problems, bringing products to market. I see us with analytics and AI, understanding marketing. And so when I, on my Apple, phone, search for lighting, that then tomorrow when I open up my phone, I'll see 4 and 5 ads from lighting companies. So we know how to do analytics. We know how to bring products to market. We know how to do things that result in commerce, right? Capitalism. How do we solve these problems in our homes, in our inner cities, and the deterioration in our families? without even trying, guess what? It's not going to happen. With trying and putting our minds together, really, not just 5 minutes of thought, but a strategic plan. That's how we launch companies. You have to have a business plan, and you have all components of your business plan. You got to have a marketing plan. You have to have a capitalization plan. You have to have an organizational plan. You have to have, you know, your market research. You have to study your competitors. You do all of this just to put a business plan together to launch a product. But we're gonna sit in a committee for 5 minutes and figure out how we're gonna solve the problems in our schools. I don't think so. So, but I do think it's possible if we only try. I feel that it is a dereliction of duty. It is a disservice to human beings to act like we can't solve the problems in our schools. Because we can. And I hate to say this, and it sounds so awful. You know not why we're not solving the problems in school? Because you don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to enough. Because some people are. We have examples. We just went to go see one in Newport News, Achievable Dream Academy, 600 students in that school. All of them are on the pathway to pretty much guaranteed success. Why? They have a track record of 30 years. I know they tried to bring it here and it didn't work for whatever reasons. But we have other schools. Success Academy in New York. Where they're serving hundreds, if not thousands of students, and they have a track record, and they've been doing it for years. So there are models that work where we can reverse the curse. But it takes effort, it takes dollars, it takes leadership, it takes integrity. Because the other thing I want to say, and I'll give it back to you, the other thing, you know, I had one guest that came and they said, we have no black leaders. And I hear that. I think that's a theme that's in our community. And what I want to say to our community is, yes, we do. So Colin Kaepernick, are you telling me he was not a leader? He put his whole NFL career on the line before anybody was doing any of this stuff. He's out of the NFL. He was blackballed. That's a leader. When you put your life on. How can you sit up here and say we have no black leaders? No, you want him to look like Martin Luther King. I love Martin Luther King. He's one of my favorites. You want him to come up there with a suit and a tie. First of all, you want to be cool and say you're cool. But then when a guy comes with an afro, wearing a football uniform, puts his whole career on the line, and then you got a nerve to say we have no black leaders. Martin Luther King did his job. But everybody's not going to come up and be a Baptist minister with a suit and a tie on. And that's who you're looking for to be your leader? You know, and then we have people who were, and I just say what's on my mind and on my heart. We at a time, we had a series of leaders in the NAACP that weren't, as far as I am aware, they weren't worth very much. Why? Either you know, maybe the allegations weren't true, but it seemed that they were taking the money out of the programs and things that were supposed to be, you know, getting to the people we're supposed to be serving. So then what that does is large grantors don't want to give you millions of dollars because the quote-unquote black leaders can't be trusted to manage the money and get it to the people they're supposed to be serving. Excuse me? You know, my great-great-grandfather was a preacher, okay? And maybe great-great, I don't know how many greats. I might have to say about 4 greats, right? Back in the day where they were on horse and buggy, like they rode around on horses back then. And he was a preacher. And they would go from town to town preaching. You know, he would be sent on assignment.
Wow.
But one of the things they would do is in the basement of the church, because they would let you go to church. They were teaching the children to read at the cost of their lives. Because it was illegal for black children to learn to read. So, but they're going to teach you to read, and we're going to do it clandestine, you know, in the basement of the church. We're going to, everybody, y'all come over at a certain time. We'll work with the kids as long as we can. But fast forward to 2024, or, you know, even a few years back when I was working with a particular program, I'm seeing black superintendents of school who are making $150, $175, $200,000 driving a Mercedes. And then we pull back the curtains to your school.
Yeah.
And the money's not going to the books.
Right.
It starts up here, but then by the time it gets to the books, it's missing something.
Right.
Where's it missing?
Right.
Money's not really going to the lunch program like it's supposed to. The after-school buses, we're missing some money. And I have a black superintendent. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how did you learn to read? How did your mother learn to read? How did your grandmother? Could it have been my grandfather put his life on the line for somebody in your chain to learn how to read? And all of a sudden, we fast forward to modern times, and you're making $200,000 with your black behind, and you can't make sure that these children are actually reading?
Yeah.
Or you concerned about the SOL scores, so you're going to send the ones out who aren't good so your scores can be high. We're going to send them on a field trip on test day.
You're right.
Oh, well, we need this and that. Well, just take the school money. Just take the after school money. They're not coming. The kids don't show up anyway. Just put that over here on this fund. Or we're going to put that on the teacher trip. Or I don't know where the money went to. All I know is all the money was not going to the children.
Right.
How could that be? How did you get in the position that you're in? And so what it is we, those who can do better, those who know better, aren't really all doing their best for those who are left out. Because if they were, we wouldn't have the situation we're having. Again, they do a little something on the surface. Oh, yeah, we're doing this. Oh, yeah, get the little group together, blah, blah. I don't see the results. And if you cared, the results would be there. Because the stuff you care about, that's working. Your paycheck, you getting that every 2 weeks. That's working just fine. The stuff in your house, it's working. But what about, as the song goes, I hate to be cliche, what about the children? And it's an imperative for me, because if we don't, who is going to help them? Who's going to step in? Who's going to put their life on the line so somebody else can have a better future? And we do see some examples of it, but I'm here to help be another example of it, to bring a group of people together. If I am nothing, I am a leader, right? I come out of a background of government. You know, I have served as a deputy secretary, a deputy cabinet member for the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have had oversight over an $800 million budget. Right? $800 million budget. You know, I was the budget deputy for my department. So the budgets did have to come up through me, and I would oversee them and say, well, wait a minute, we're cutting out money here. No. I took a stand one time, back when we were cutting out jobs and everything in state government. And the budgets came up, and they were going to cut a program on public radio that was a reading program, and it was reading for the blind.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
We're not cutting this. But no, we have to, and blah, blah, blah. No, we're not cutting it. Oh, well, we need to, but we're not.
Wow.
But we need to, and yes, you are, but no, I'm not. I wouldn't send it up.
Wow.
I had 2 people over me that it had to go to, and they were like, well, but I said, I know, I'm not. You can, but I'm not. But I'm not. And guess what? They didn't. But I had to push back a little bit, because I said, you know what, we might be bad off, but if we can't fund a small program that's on, public radio where they're reading books so the blind can hear, I said, no, we're better than that. Y'all can get the money from wherever else y'all want to get it from, but we're not cutting this program. Right? We need people who are willing to stand up. So I'm saying, if I am nothing else, I'm a leader, right? If I'm nothing else, I know how to plan. I know how large enterprises work, right? I know efficiency and effectiveness, right? I have integrity. So I believe, I'm just crazy enough to believe, you can say what you want, I'm one little person, but I'm crazy enough to believe that I can help fill the void that we have, in a sense, from a back office standpoint. We got people who can be ground troops, and they can, do things and interact. Because I'm not the best doing hands-on with people. I'm not. But we have people who love that and who are good at that. I think what we're missing is the programmatic piece, right? So with FaceTime with God, this is where we kind of reach people to help get our team to help make this a reality. But also, you know, I'll be putting together a board of directors who are more the office types, the strategists, the planners, the analysts, so that our back office stuff will stack up against, you know, Amazon. You know, it'll stack up against Dell computers. It will stack up against Apple, right? Like seriously, you look at their paperwork, you look at our paperwork. All the analytics they do, we would have done. So I'm gonna give you no reason. Like, why didn't we? You will be giving us a grant because all of our stuff will be in order. But then we have the team, right? That looks like the people, that the people are more likely to embrace, that we can work with them, and then that we can carry it out. So we're doing it, looking at it, you know, from both angles. So that's really what my heart is, and really what we want to do. And I know I kind of went.
It's okay. I'm flowing with you. I can go.
I went the wrong way.
No,
But
you're right. You're good. You were talking about the comment that one of your guests made about there being no leaders, right? And as I'm listening to you talk, I'm wondering what leaders have shown up in your life that help shape this thing in you.
Wow. Well, I'll be honest. I'm so glad to hear that question, and it might go to another one of your questions. But you know, my first leaders is what some kids don't have. Right. My mom and my dad. They were amazing people. Like my mom, she was so beautiful, right? Beautiful black woman. Petite, beautiful features, beautiful, you know, brown skin. Beautiful hair, stylish. But she would always say in college, she set the scale. And some of the kids, the other students, they were like mad at her because she would set the scale because they graded on a scale and she would be at the top and they're like,
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Smart. Wise. Beautiful. Right? My dad, the same way. Brilliant black man. Cool black man. Right? Stylish. Both of them super stylish, super smart, super cool. But very, like my dad, one day he was out in the garage. I never, very rarely did I see my dad sit down. I was telling the young people, I don't sit down. You know, sometimes I go weeks, you know, the nice little relax, we sat on the sofa. Sometimes I will go weeks without even sitting down on that sofa. Because from the time I wake up, I am working and doing things, getting things done. We don't come in this house and sit. Easy chair. What is an easy chair? TV. You know, I grew up with one TV in our house, and then when I moved out of my parents' home, I built my first house.
Okay.
They don't believe in credit cards. You don't put anything on credit. Like nothing. If you can't afford it, you don't buy it. Right? We didn't growing up. One or two times growing up, I wanted some sneakers like the other kids had, or I wanted a pair of jeans, just jeans with somebody's special jeans. I didn't even ask for, because I knew I wasn't getting it. Child, you got some clothes in your closet, shoes. I don't even remember any of none of it stood out because it didn't matter. Right. You put a clean pair of clothes, you know and you went to school and you came on home. You don't have any designer this and designer that, like none of it. We grew up, I tell people, we grew up, and I would love to go shopping with my dad, and he would go get the groceries. My mom would fix the food. She didn't do grocery shopping too much. That was my dad's job, and we always wanted to go with him. Okay. And so he would get the old, cereal, and we kids always want cereal. You think you getting Cheerios? Cheerios? Here's a box of O's, and here's the Cheerio. Yeah. He turned it over. He would read the ingredients. Yep. Oats. Wheat. It's like. It's the same. O's is what we getting, huh? Yeah. You know what I mean? But guess what? I never even heard of somebody's lights being cut off till I was way grown. I didn't even know that was a thing. Wow. never heard of going without or lack anything to eat. It might have been that we couldn't get a third helping on something. And you know, and I was thinking about it. Mommy would make us like crab cakes. You know, we would have fish. We would have vegetables. We had a hot meal every day. Every day, Mommy would come home from. She was a teacher. She would come home, kick her shoes off, you know, and get in the kitchen and cook a meal every day. And then they would prepare for the next day. And then they would get being late to work, missing work. That was something I never heard of.
Wow.
How do you not go to work?
Right.
Missing school. I remember a couple of days when, you know, high school, I would say, Mom, I don't feel that well. She said, okay, well, don't go to school. I was like, don't go? I said, no, because I got track practice, and then we got debate practice, and then if I don't go, if I miss, I got to do extra sit-ups. I said, you know, but she would say, if you don't feel well, baby, just stay home. And then I would be all the reasons why I can't miss school. You know, I mean, I didn't want to miss school. You don't not show up for stuff. I mean, this is how we were raised. I mean, so in other words, they were very straight-laced, very much, and just on you. I mean, on you about your language, about your writing. When I've done a number of jobs in state government. One of them, I was a technical writer at one point, right? And so they would always get me to write, you know, anything that came out of the governor's office from the time I went in state government. I remember the governor's office would call, and the commissioner's office would send the call to me, and I'm like, why are y'all sending the governor? Even back to when Wilder was in office.
Wow.
They would call about something. They would send a call to me. I'm like, I was an analyst, but I was just raised and trained to be meticulous, you know, to do my research, to get my information, the things that I wrote. So any report that had to go downtown or whatever, oftentimes, I mean, they would give it to me to write. So I even have documents in Senate, House documents. I've written legislation. People don't realize that. They think that, you know, the elected official, do you think they're in their office with a pen writing? I mean, so they will give the concept and tell people what they want the legislation to do, but they have people that write that out, and I have done that for my agency. You know what I mean? And the writing has to be perfect, not missing a comma, like your verb, subject, verb. I mean, everything has to be. And it was so funny. Sometimes some of the documents I would write, and I would get just a puzzled look, like, from my manager. I was like, okay, so I wrote it, but is it okay if I let my mom read it? And he would just pause and look at me, and I didn't realize, I guess he was thinking, an older black lady read this technical document? Like, that doesn't even calculate, that doesn't compute for me. I should have said, you don't know my mother. Yeah. Because I would just get a puzzled look, and he was like, okay. And I would take it, and she would read it, or I would get my dad to read it sometime. And they would find one or two things, like I might be missing a comma here, or, you know, well, your choice of words here may not have been. But my writing, I might even show you one or two things before you go. Or, anyway, not that you need to one. But I'm just saying, but nobody would expect them to be in a position to give comment on a document that's going to the General Assembly or that's representing an entire state agency. But these are who my parents were. I was raised to be excellent. Like, seriously, you couldn't do anything. I was like, goodness. I mean, even when I moved here, my mom came to live with me. She ordered me around my whole house. I just let her. She would be, don't leave that refrigerator. Why are you leaving my refrigerator door open? I'm like, okay, well, she's right. I shouldn't leave the refrigerator open. I mean, just on you about everything. So that is how I was raised. So those are my first heroes. And I can't think of, you know, a better, but if I needed a third, the third would be my brother, who was literally a genius.
Wow.
Like, literally. But he was I'm trying to think of a good word. He was a rebellious genius, right? So he barely graduated high school. My mom was like, we just hope he graduates. Let's see the page. Is his name on there? Yeah. Because he was out partying, having a good time, right? And he couldn't conform to, like, structure very well. So he tried to even go to J. Sarge and get his degree. Get his associates or whatever. He really didn't do well with that. But he got a job in computer ops, right? And so those are the people that they will kind of, and like as a sysadmin, so they just watch the machines all, and at a certain cycle they have to flip another switch, or change a config or something, or make sure that the cycles. And back in the day when you had mainframe computers, large bevies, the whole room of floor to ceiling mainframe computers, those things had to keep running. They had to stay cool. They had certain cycles where you might have to, change certain config. And so you didn't have to have, like, first of all, not everybody's going to sit there in a room and just kind of sit and monitor the computers and change a few things. So he could get that kind of job. But then he would take the binder. Back then they had binders, like huge binders. He'd bring them home and read them.
Wow.
And learn them.
Wow.
I mean, and he got to a point where he knew that stuff like the back of his hands. And so fast forward, he built the entire, right over here at Villa Park, at Bank of America. But before it was Bank of America, I forget all of that. I forget how banks merge.
Yeah.
Fast forward, he designed their whole data center.
Wow.
Back when he was in Charlotte. Then he moved back here to oversee it, and he became not an AVP, not an assistant vice president. He worked his way up from there to a full vice president over network for then the bank that preceded Bank of America, right over here in Villa Park. And I'm just checking to make sure I'm saying the right bank name. But yeah, it was Bank of America, right over here in Villa. Because he would go in on the weekends. And because a couple times he took me, and I'm like, I thought we were going to the store, and I just need to run in here for a minute. And would go in there in his data center. Yeah. So, a genius. So those are my heroes. But in Christ, I have a lot of people that pour into me. First Lady Ann and Dr. E.G. Francis, I would definitely call them out locally. My good friends, Pastor David and Tracy Forbes in Ohio. And then I've had a number of pastors to really pour into me over the years. Way back, in the day, RCC and Pastor Parson and Brenda Parson and, the Richmond Christian Center, they helped me, and all the elders and leaders there. Also, Mount Gilead and the leaders there where I served for years and years. They poured into me. Today, spiritually, I've had a mentor for years and years, my big sister Deborah in Atlanta, and then what I call Mama Joyce. So those are currently my mentors, but lots of people have poured into me and to help me get to where I am today. Colossians 3:23 and 24. And whatever you do, do it with all your heart as unto the Lord and not unto men, knowing that it's of the Lord that you shall receive the reward of the inheritance, because you serve the Lord Christ.